we've been trying to tell better stories about women and clergy and the church, because we really need to tell better stories. Instead of just complaining about it, what if we flood the airwaves with something different? Tell me about because you said you guys are partnering with IJM and OSEC.
OSEC is online sexual exploitation of children. So in the Philippines, this isn't getting, it has been just exploding since 2014. The cases are very high because internet is easily accessible. Of course, there's poverty everywhere. Children are not valued. God is not known. There's just many reasons. They speak English.
Right. Yes. English can be understood.
So young children can take instructions from a computer screen. So of course, most of the perpetrators on the other end come from Australia, the UK, North America, places of wealth. And often over 70% of the time, the perpetrator on this end is a family member or a trusted adult for the children. And so the Church of the Nazarene, we've been partnering almost since the very beginning. Of course, that was before we were here. And we would do awareness. Right. We're just getting our pastors to talk about it in their churches. Because what do we all do? We say, I don't want to know about that, right? I don't want to know that happens.
It's such a hard thing to know.
It's just been a hard thing to open up for the country, really, and say, okay, we're willing to know. We're willing to know that this happens, and what can we do to help? And so the Church of the Nazarene has been involved in awareness in schools, and some of the hot spots our young people would go and just talk about what it is with the 4th, 5th graders, and do drama and do different things to try to be able to just make them be more aware.
Training for the teachers to let them know kind of what to look for in kids and things that maybe. Yes. This may be happening with.
So that was a huge part, but our FSC at the time, he started to feel like we are supposed to do more as a church. I mean, we're doing these things, we have huge meetings of churches, all different churches from the Philippines meeting to pray over OSEC and raise awareness and do all these kinds of things. But he came and said, what more do you need? To International Justice Mission, he said, what else could we do? We're trying to think of how we can go to the next level of support. And so we were told at that time, there's no assessment center. There's no place for children who are rescued. And that is on the rise, as there's a big organization now that's a combination of all the different countries and IJM and local police all working together. But the children would be rescued and sometimes would spend the night or two in a jail while they looked for spots for them. They felt like criminals. They would put them in a regular shelter who had no facility to manage the trauma that they'd been under. And he said, we need to set up assessment centers. And so we started to explore what that might look like. And we had at that time one of the missionary houses, a big house that was not being used and was being used for some other things, but no one was living there. And so they cleaned it out, they rehabbed it, set up big bunk rooms, and it had a big living space. And we inaugurated Shechem House in September of 2018. And we got our first kids in 2019. And we can accommodate up to 15 at a time in there. And what they get is trauma-informed care, which looks like psychotherapy. When I would have thought, how can kids be helped by this? Oh my goodness, young children are able to do therapy as they get upset, and it's just amazing the success that it has. We have counselors on site all the time. They live in a home that's run like a family home. So it's not run like a facility. They do chores. They help learn to cook. Many are neglected. And so they come and they get loved on by wonderful Christian ladies who are our house parents. And
They get taught skills on how to cook and clean and do basic things. It's also the only home that accepted boys and girls, so sibling groups could be kept together when they were rescued.
Which very often it's a sibling group thing, right? So that might be a grandparent or a parent, there's cousins, and there's a group of kids that get rescued at a time. And so they can all come and stay together and begin to process through their trauma. So at first they feel like they've just been kidnapped from their family and they're angry. And then as they begin to be educated on what's happened to them, and that it's not right, and that we're here to help, then they begin to see that there's a future. Honestly, with kids that come in, when they first get there, you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they can't imagine it. Like they've never thought about what their future will hold. Because of their circumstances. And literally within a month or two, you ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, I want to be a police officer or a lawyer, because they've had experiences in these things, or a teacher, or they begin to see what the future can be. So Shechem Children's Home is a Nazarene Compassionate Ministry. It's at ncm.org/Shechem. And anybody could get more information on that if they wanted to. But children stay around 3 to 5 months.
Classified as a short-term assessment home.
And they get this really intensive care. And the idea is to prepare them for their next steps, to get them started on the journey of health, healing. Of holistic healing. And so they've done some research on us already and have found that children actually are doing better because of having that intensive time, that they're able then to go. Sometimes they get placed. So the